Hello, friends and family. Today we're doing an experiment. We're going to be testing the less expensive paints to see how well they hold together. So I'm testing three different brands, which are the less expensive ones: Artist Loft, Master's Touch, and Modern Masters. And usually, when you combine the less expensive paints with the more expensive paints, you don't really see the difference. Although every so often you will see some fracturing. So I wanted to see that if I put together these paints and only just the less expensive paint to see whether or not I get a lot of fracturing. So now in the paints, because I knew they're less expensive, which means they're less pigmented, less little pigments of paint in the overall paint, I decided to do a 1-to-1 ratio. So it's like 50% paint, 50% pouring medium. And so hopefully there's enough paint to be able to hold together. Although if you sort of take a look, you already begin to see sort of the cracking in the paint. So it's not cracking in terms of like leaving little holes here and there. It just fractures and pulls away from each other, and I can already see that. But I'm also getting beautiful cells, so I'm excited about that. So here, as I'm stretching the canvas, or as I'm tilting, I begin to see sort of like amazing gradients that we were able to achieve. I also see just such an interesting composition that we achieved. Now, the stretching is a lot slower than it looks like in the video, because I am making it 4 times, in some occasions 8 times fast, just to keep the videos shorter, so that you don't have to get bored with the videos. Hopefully you enjoy seeing it. The other thing that I like is when when I make it faster, I see the paint move, and it moves like in a blob. And so it looks, I don't know, I really enjoy watching that. So hopefully you also like that. Now, if you want sort of a step by step, minute by minute, second by second sort of thing, I can also make longer videos. So if you want more of a step by step, let me know, make a comment. Or if you enjoy the shorter ones, also let me know if you enjoy those. But so anyhow, so here, the one thing with this really interesting composition, although the murky white section could potentially be a good place for the eye to rest, it looks it scares me that there's not enough paint in there to hold together. So that's why I'm going to intentionally break it apart by adding some more paints some more of the Modern Masters, which is a super dark paint. I couldn't add a lot of it during the actual pour because it can take over if you use too much of it. So I hope you'll noted that I just put one drop of that, just because it dries really dark, and then also it has a tendency to take over. So now that I have already stretched my canvas and have my composition the way I want it, then I can put artificial lines in areas where there's space for it. So here, that's what I'm doing. You'll note that it's really hard for me to go back to the same line. So it just makes it look like veins. So I figure it's fine if I can't get back to exactly the same line. But this part is actually about 16, 8 times or 16 times faster, just because I was having to look through the magnifying glass and try to follow that line. It was super slow. So this is the part that I really had to speed up so that it doesn't look super boring. Okay, so like I mentioned, this is just to add some interest into the composition. And you'll note in a little bit when I show you the dry piece that these embellishments dry really well. So here we go. Here's the here I'm taking you in for a close-up of the wet piece. If you note, like, look at all the fracturing that has already happened, but it still looks stunning. So, I'm not saying don't buy the inexpensive paints. I'm just saying make sure you combine it with the more expensive ones, and then also, the ratio that you use between the paint and the pouring medium has to be decreased, so that way you have more of the paint. Some of these paints almost feel like you just need to use it straight from the bottle. Like, yeah, it's just, they're less expensive because they have less of the pigments in it, so it's less expensive to make. So it's a give and take, right? So if you buy the more expensive ones, you can make more of the paint and use less of it, but and also you have less likelihood of breaking, but it is more expensive. So if you're like me, don't have a lot of money and stuff because you're disabled, then you have to combine stuff and yeah, but it still looks fantastic even if it did fracture. And some people like the fracturing, so to each his own, right? But so the experiment was super successful. We achieved a beautiful piece, and also this showed what I look at this fracturing is just, it's already there. And like I said, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so it's not like I was skimped on it. So yeah, and then, but we'll see. Let me show you how it dries, because that really is the biggest test, is like, because sometimes you pour and you get a beautiful composition, but then when it dries it looks horrible and stuff. But so let's see the dry piece. So now let's take a look at the dry piece. It looks stunning. There's so much to see. There are different elements here and there. There's little hearts. There's just, there were just a few paints, just like 4 or 5. There were 5 paints, I think. But the way they've blended together to make different colors, they blend together to create different interesting compositions. It really is beautiful. But if you take a look, if you look closely, you'll see that the fracturing happened in all the paints. It wasn't just like 1 or 2. Even Modern Masters paint is the one that held closer together, but it did fracture. So yeah, so the less expensive paints, that's the issue that you can run into, is that they have the tendency to maybe fracture a little bit. And I put a lot of paint in, so it wasn't just like, well, you just put too little paint. No, I did a 1-to-1 ratio with the paint. So when you do use inexpensive paints along with more expensive paints, the more expensive paints tend to be able to cover for the less expensive. So nonetheless, it's a good experiment. See you in the next one.